Hello and welcome back to my channel. If you're new, welcome. Today we're talking about a fanfiction called Agreste Wayne. Details about this fanfiction in the description below. This entire fanfiction is definitely it's a assault fanfiction, but I guess I don't compared to other assault fanfics. This isn't really that salty. It's not even up there, right? Especially since I guess that's because this takes place years later. They're grown ups now, right? But even then, when you get not quite flashbacks, but they're just characters looking back on what happened in high school, and really it's always in the context oh, it's them reflecting on it, right? Because it's always in the context of oh, I thought it was this way, but it was really this way, the situation, but they couldn't see it because blinders are on, right? Because they're no, this is my friend, they wouldn't ever, and now that they're older, they're an adult, they can objectively see no, this isn't, and it's and there's just there's definitely regrets. Why wouldn't there be? But overall I don't think there's is really all that salty towards it. It is salt definitely, but I really don't think it's all that salty because it almost really isn't even really about that. It's almost a side piece. It's really just about Marinette, Damien, Adrien, and the kids. It's really just about that, and then the side of the salt, right? Because even with Lila, the main person we're salting on, is I don't want to say it's that bad, but it's definitely karma does come back to her, but it's still versus other selfies where it's everyone ends up in jail or something dramatic, you know what I mean? It's compared to any of those, it's not that bad. But this starts with Marin and Damien. They're immediately bombarded by the paparazzi, and they're in their faces. They're, taking pictures. They're asking, with questions oh, what do you think of the, asking about the supposed affair between Marinette and Adrien, right? So and because they already have two kids, right, two girls, and Marinette is currently pregnant. So they're asking, it's oh, are you still going to support Marinette and her, her business? Are you, divorced? Oh, are the other kids, the two daughters they have, oh, are they really yours? And so they're asking all this and they have no idea what's going on. So finally, when Damien gets everyone to shut up and stop asking questions, they finally kind of look at what's happening, and look it up. And what do you know? It's an article basically saying how Marinette had an affair and with Adrien she's having, and that she's currently pregnant with his child, and insinuating that the other two kids that they had already had, her and Damien, were might not even be his, but lucky enough to pass because they look so much like Marinette. It's insinuating basically none of them are his kids. And by the end of the article, they can see hosted by Alia. Okay, so now they finally know what's going on. They do address it. They're this is the dumbest thing. First off, this sort because they point out how so many holes in the story. The source that Alia supposedly got this from doesn't even say even if they wanted to stay anonymous, it's there's nothing about the source of how close they are to the Wayne family or the Agreste. There's nothing to even indicate anything. This could be a disgruntled employee, which we later find out is the case. And Marinette is calling out Adrien. It's hey, we had to reveal, and it turns out Adrien's going through the same thing. It's oh, so now it's out in the open where she is indeed having, she's pregnant currently with Adrien's kid, but she's a surrogate, so there's no affair. It's completely fine. Everyone involved knows, even Gabriel, even though he thinks it's so backward, whatever, right? It's fine, right? Because Adrien, he wants a kid, and this is his mindset. He wants a kid, but he hasn't really found anyone yet. But he really does want a kid, and he wants to level up. So what better way than surrogate, right? And Marinette obviously, took that out because by this point, clearly a shift happened where, in the past where she stopped liking him, they became better friends, the point where they just came like almost like siblings to each other. So really no interest. So that's cleared up. On the other side, back in Paris, we get from Ollie's point of view where she's getting chewed out by her boss because she didn't get permission to put that story out there. So she from her boss, right? So he didn't like no one read it over it to gave her the okay to put that out there. She took another story and put hers in its place. So now they're all doubling back and they look for the story that she pulled to put that out there. And, just like all the others doing a retraction and he's looking at her, it's like, what are you doing? He's chewing her out. It's like, and her credibility, like, 'cause again, he even said, like, her credibility goes down the drain. Like, when he said, it's like, Alia was in school known for just kind of eavesdropping on any shred of information and kind of running with it, never really checking her sources. Immediately, credibility is shot, right? Doesn't really do great. And so she ends up getting fired over it. And just like, I suggest Alia tries to post this first, like, oh, they're all lying. It's like, no, right? It's like, it's just check your sources. And so Alia is like almost, she's trying to work this out, like, how could this go, like, what's happening, like, how could it go so wrong, because Ollie, she got it from Lila, so she's, like, trying to call Lila over and over, it doesn't work, she ends up kind of trying to go over to her house, but then she realizes once she gets there, it doesn't really work, right, because that's not Lila's house, this is, like, some random old couple. And she kind of realizes, well, Lila never really specifically told her where she lives. She just always, like, vaguely pointed somewhere, like, oh, I live over there, but my mom doesn't really like company over, so they never really went over. So she doesn't actually know where Lila lives. Fantastic. She does try to call Nino, too, but Nino had changed his number. So we find out, like, it's like, oh, what's even happening? Because, like, she's trying to find out, like, because, again, he's best friends with Adrien, so he would know what's going on. It's like, him and Lila are supposedly dating, so it's like, what's happening? And what gets her is she ends up passing an advertisement, like an advertisement. Well, no, it's an announcement. Gabriel announcing the new face of the company because Adrien retired. It's not like he wanted to do this forever, and it's Juka. And this is where, Ollie is like, well, what about Lila? Like, wasn't she the face? And that's when it comes up. It's like, oh, because they're asking questions to Gabriel. It's like, oh, it was rumored that, your son and, the model Lila were in a relationship. And he's like, I have no idea what that rumor is. That's not even slightly true. It's like, because Adrien, again, is single, and just like with, like Marinette, like, the announcement said Marinette and everything, he wanted a kid, surrogate, so, like, he's not in any type of relationship. And so this is where Alia, like, is, like, in a daze as she walks home, because she's realizing, like, everything's kind of crashing down around her, it's sinking in. It's like, because Gabriel even mentions offhandedly, it's like, it's like Lila, it's like, because they do ask about Lila, it's like, she was never going to be a face, like, clearly had no intention of making her a face of the company, but, like, her contract had run, like, its course, and, she had to be escorted off his property, basically, because once she found out, it's like, you no longer have a job. And so Alia was walking home in a daze at that point, because, it's crashing down, it's finally coming to her, especially with what, Damien has said, and, like, was quoted. It's like, this could very well just be, like, a disgruntled employee making this shit up. And guess who this disgruntled employee is? Lila. Like, so obviously it's like she was fired and had to be escorted off the property. Now, we do find out later that was, like, after the fact, but still, it's like, it is, like, it's set in, it's like, it's finally settling into her. It's like, Lila lied about pretty much everything, and it cost you your job, which is very sad, but also, what did you expect to happen? We then get from Lila's point of view at the time, back in time, before any of that happened, So they were doing a photo shoot, and she tried to go up to Adrien and do her usual kind of, I don't even know what you would call this. She tried to get on her, but he's not paying attention to her. He's reading a book, and he's like, "It's about my child." And he's like, "Oh, she's not even really listening. You could tell. She's like, "Oh, your childhood, how cute!" Like, and it's like before she was like, "No, it's my child. I'm having a kid," and doesn't go into detail any further. He's like, "Oh, I'm like," and he walks away right to his tent. And Lila, like in her head, she's like, years of planning have gone to waste now because she's thinking obviously he has someone he's having a kid with too. And I'm just, first I'm thinking, I'm like, what do you mean years of planning? Girl, by this point he knew how much of a terrible person you were because you went to school together and you were kind of messing with his friend. He knows what a terrible person you are. What are you talking about? Years of planning. Girl, he's not gonna forget about that. You suck and he doesn't like you. Why would that suddenly change? You know what? So it's like, but then I'm also thinking about it, I'm like, actually that kind of somewhat did happen in canon. Like, what were they were like filming like some sort of commercial or whatever, and she starts making up a like she's like, oh, like trying to be like all weirdly sweet. It's like, oh, this reminds me of, I don't know, whatever lie she was making up. And Adrien basically just told her to shut up. He was like, I don't have to listen to you lie. He basically just telling her to shut up. And she looked like visibly upset. And it's like, girl, you know he doesn't like you. Why are you trying? I'm so confused. Like, why are we actively trying to like almost get on his good side? You know he doesn't like you. You might as well just stop talking. Just just take it. Just stop talking. All right. You already have the job. Leave it. And so I'm not gonna lie, I'm like, that is pretty on brand. It's like you weirdly still trying to worm your way to him, you know, because he doesn't like you. But so she ends up going over a tent and she makes an excuse to like the makeup artist and everyone. She's like, oh, I have to go get something. So she ends up going over the tent and she ends up eavesdropping. Like, she doesn't actually go in. She eavesdrops on Adrien because he's having a phone call and about the kid, you know, she's talking, and he's talking to Marinette about the kid, whatever. And he then ends up saying like, oh, I love you. But like, that's like the most normal thing to say. But, you know, we're stuck in the past or whatever. So Lila takes this and she runs with it. She's like, well, I can't have it. It's like, you know, she's vindictive. So she's like, I'm going to drag you down. And so she leaks everything to Alia. She's like, you know, but in the way of like she usually does it. Like, oh, I overheard it. It's like, oh, it's terrible. Like, what are those two kids? Like, you know, insinuating. So that's how it ends up happening. And then everything comes crashing down. And Lila realizing, well, how was I supposed to know that's surrogate? Like, what? You know, it's like, girl, you serious? Like, you for real? And so that's when she gets a call from Natalie, you know, saying, you know, to come over. And that's when she gets in her head, well, Gabriel's stepping down because he doesn't want to do this anymore, obviously, you know, especially like he's having a kid on the way. And so that's where she gets in her head. It's like, I'm the only one left. It's like, so I'm going to be the face of Gabriel. She's like, you know what? She can have Adrien. I'll be the new face of Gabriel. It's like, I have Gabriel in the palm of my hand. And then she gets there and he's like, so do you know why you're here? It's like, you know, it's like some information got out recently. It's like, you know, some private information. A lot of us thinking maybe he was one of the stylists, but she's like, I don't even listen to him in the first place. And Gabriel's looking at her, it's like, wow, okay, well, you're dumb. But he ends up telling, like, you're dumb. But he ends up telling her, it's like, no, it's about the whole surrogate thing. Like, that thing was, like, locked. Like, no one knew about that. That wasn't even supposed to be announced until, like, later. Like, way later. Probably until, like, the baby was actually born. And so this is when Lila's realizing, oh, she messed up. Like, yeah, no. And so she ends up getting fired because, you know, in her contract it said that she can't leak any information about the company or any personal information about any of them. Guess what she did? And so now she's getting fired. And so that's why she had to be escorted off the premises. She does try to, like, refuse at first. She's like, I'm the only one you have left. And he's like, no. It's like, while you were kind of off on breaks and doing little things, he's like, he's basically had in line planned who the next face of Gabriel was. So it was literally never going to be Lila. Even if she didn't ruin her contract or whatever, it was literally never going to be her. That she got her hoped up for absolutely nothing. All that's happening, Adrien had moved into with them to Wayne Manor, right? Be closer so when the time comes, baby's born, right? Because she's months along. And how close they are, it's like he literally is known like as Uncle Adrien to like their two kids already. So it's like, again, they're very, very close. But he moves in to be closer to the kid, to his kid. And it starts out rocky at first because, you know, well, this isn't Marinette's first rodeo, right? This is her first time being pregnant. This is definitely Adrien, like, him not knowing what to do. And he's, like, also reading all these books of, like, you know, what's good for pregnant women, what's good for the baby, this, that, and everything. So it gets a little, you know, he basically wants to take her and wrap her in bubble wrap, basically. And Marinette gets frustrated with this. And the hormones colliding, she ends up snapping at him. They do end up working it out, you know, because Damien does end up telling him, it's like, oh, I want to do that too when she was first pregnant. It was a nightmare, but, you know. So they end up getting over that hurdle, and Adrien now has to sort through, like, because they don't know if it's girl or boy yet. So there's the sort through, like, what he wants for in the baby's room, like colors, decorations, cribs, everything. And he's like, I don't know what to do. It's like, it'll be fine. Like, oh, it's do it in separate folders. Some of them definitely get rid of anyway. It's like, oh. And so, like, he's visibly overwhelmed though. He's like, oh my God, what am I looking at anymore? He's struggling. He's drowning in, like, the options of baby things. And then we flash over to, because we go back and forth. So then we go back over to Alia, and she's basically taken out all of her recordings since she's done it in school, right? With anything having to do with Lila and anything. And just like anything old having to do with her, like on her website and her old, like, little journalism things. And I do like how, like, she can, like she said, like, she can see the change that happened when Lila came, right? Because before it would be about, like, things like she and her friends were into, right? So with Ivan and Mylan, she'd do like a piece on the environment, like environmental piece. Alex and Nino, she would do like history on music, things that they were genuinely like, it was a variety basically of information that they were all really into. And then when Lila came along, it slowly kind of became about things that she told her about. So not even just necessarily about Lila herself, it was just things that Lila had told her, and then she was just kind of regurgitating without any proof and just putting it out there. And like the shift happened, and she's at it for like hours, and she doesn't even know. She's like, I need to breathe, right? She's just where it kind of is like sinking in, right? It's like, Jesus, right? She's like, wanted to be a journalist so bad and claimed it, and yet couldn't really do the most basic thing of fact checking. But it's like, you were kids, but at the same time, you know, but still. So she ends up walking, and she ends up running into Nino. And Nino at first tries to walk away. He wants nothing to do with her. And this is where we find out, because she ends up getting him like, please, like, wait. She's like, did you know? And it was like his first immediate like response was like, look, almost was like, oh, look, like to defend himself, like, look, whatever Lila told you, like, it's not. It's like, oh, so this is where we find out, like, basically broke up, right? Because Lila has said that she has seen, you know, with someone not great. And so this is where Nino can visibly see that she's kind of upset. It's like, oh, did you know that Lila was lying? It's like, and he's like, yeah, he figured it out, right? And then for Marinette, like, obviously she was like one of the first to know, and like along with Adrien. And it makes sense why, you know, like how they treated her in school and how, like, you know, they brushed her off so callously. It's like, it makes sense why she really wouldn't care. Not like a malicious way of like, I don't care about you, just in a way of like, I moved on, you know, it's whatever now. I moved on, we're not friends, it's whatever, right? And we see that later when it's kind of reiterated by like Marinette. But they end up going out, you know, they end up having coffee so they can talk about it more. And Nino found out because she kept promising things, but she never delivered ever on any of it. And so he eventually stopped getting his hopes up, learned, and just did it on his own. And that's kind of how he eventually found out, like, yeah, she is full of it. None of it is. And I feel like that's how probably most of them would figure it out anyway. I'd say give it like a month, but then Lila's never really there. But it's still like, I feel like that's how most of them would find out Lila's lying anyway. You know, just let it take its course of Lila promising things. And because she's an idiot and has like the memory of a goldfish, she'll just forget you promises until like they end up saying something to her, you know? But that's how he like ends up finding out. And so she does end up asking him, like she feels like she doesn't deserve to ask how Marinette's doing or how Adrien's doing like at any point, but like she does like want to know, like desperately, like, were you there at the wedding? And he's like, yeah, I mean, I was, right? Because at that point, like, they had him and Adrien had become closer again, so he was there for the wedding, and that's all he wanted to know. She kind of gets up and leaves because she's crying, but he does give her like his number. It's like to reconnect, like if you ever want to talk again, because it is sad because back in school, her and Marinette were inseparable. They'd constantly talk about this and that, in their love life, and like how cute the future would be. And so to see it, like how none of it worked out, and like Marinette did get married, she did have like but like just Holly was not there to ever be a part of it, is like devastating to her. So Nino does end up calling up Adrien though, and at first Adrien's like, okay, so you reconnect with her, cool. Nothing to do with me. I mean, I don't know. Like, he said you can reconnect with her, but like, I'm not trying to. But so he does end up calling him about like all figuring it out. So he does end up, but he doesn't end up telling me. He's like, I'll tell Marinette like that. I'll figure it out. But it's up to her if she wants to reach out. He's not gonna force her, and he really doesn't want her stressed now that she's pregnant anyway. So it's like, no one really wants to force anyone to something like that they don't want to do. Eventually, they do go to ultrasound, find out the baby's gender. He's having a girl. Oh my god! So now the only thing is left to do is figure out a name and also the room. It makes it easier because he gets rid of, just deletes half of the folder. And I was calling him a girl. He's still struggling with it though, because he's like, oh my god, look at all the options. He's looking at it, he's like, oh my god, please, don't ever become a fashion designer. Don't ever be into fashion. I won't understand anything you're talking about to me. And he's like, I will never understand anything you were saying to me. Don't ever become a fashion designer. And as he's like looking for Marinette, like he stumbles upon her. She doesn't even notice he's there yet. But she's like talking to the baby. And she's like, little like Emma, like Emma Agreste. And this is where it's like, I like it, Emma Agreste. And she's like mortified. She's like, I am so like, you quit already apologizing. She's like, I didn't mean to name your baby or anything. It's like, no, it's fine. So they already have like a name figured out now, right? Lily being, because that was her favorite flower. So Emma, Lily, Agreste. But she's still like mortified because she knows Damon's gonna be mad because he made a point to tell her like, this is his first time let him, have not figure everything out for himself, but like let him like experience everything for himself. And sure enough, when they reveal like at the table, like, yeah, her name's Emma, like Damien, like he doesn't say it, but he is like disappointed at her. It's like, oh, and he just kind of hopes to avoiding that. He's like, there's no way he'd stay mad. Cause like he's not mad, so it's fine. But no, he was upset. So, but he does make it later to like talk to Damien. It's like, I'm not upset. It's like, I think I wouldn't be able to figure it out what to name my daughter. It's like, because he didn't want to name like exactly her name, but so Emma was like, yeah, that's pretty close. So they eventually do get over this hurdle, right? So they end up having a picnic, Adrien and everything, because he's family, of course. So they do eventually get over it. And then finally, the baby's born. Little Emma Agreste is finally born. I like how he posted to her, his first post being, new level unlocked, fatherhood. Sir, you would. That's so corny. It's so stupid too. But now that, she's no longer pregnant and she's like, not risking being stressed, or if she would, he does decide to tell her, not like they're in the hospital room, like they're way to like their home. But he does decide to like tell her about what Nina had told him about Alia and everything. And just like him, she responded with, okay. She's like, I mean, if he wants to reconnect with, like, if Nina wants to reconnect with her, that's fine. I mean, I don't really care, because again, it's truly like the mentality of like, I've grown as a person a lot, I've moved on, it doesn't really matter, right? It's not necessarily like, oh, they're beneath me. It's just like, you change the person, you move on, and whatever, right? Especially since, he says like, oh, but, because Alia might want to reach out and apologize. And Marinette says she has to think about it because, she's clearly changed as a person. She's grown. All of them have. But literally just out of that article, like, however long ago, it kind of seems like she kind of has some catching up to you, right? Because it's her just not figuring it out. It's like, she doesn't want to be dragged back to whatever mentality that was when they had it, like, in high school, right? So and even if they do kind of reconnect, she apologizes. It's not like they'll, like, instantly become, friends again. So meanwhile, that was happening on the other side of the pond. We find out Lila is over here looking up. She's seen all this, right? Like on the articles and everything. And so she's looking up Gotham. She's like, ugh, it's a terrible place to move. Crime rate high, rent low. And so, but she's thinking of going there anyway because Adrien looks like he's staying there for a while. So she's still trying to, like, in the mentality of trying to win him over. Because I guess now that he's like single, this is her golden ticket. So I guess now that like he's single, he's just gonna be a dad. But like, girl, bye. It doesn't work though because it's quickly shattered because she finds out because Lila is now just working she's like a waitress, and she finds out because her name's trending again. Not for good reasons, right? She finds out because Alia had a new blog and like Dreams Shattered by a Liar, and everything in it is literally with proof. She can receipt details of how Lila is like not who she appears to be. She's a fraud. She's not any of this, right? Because the public, she's still like, oh, she used to be Gabriel Gaspano, but like she's so sweet and blah blah. No, she's not, right? Or like no one thinks anything of her. And she came to receipt. She even interviewed Gabriel, like, oh, on like why she was fired and everything like that. It's like obviously because of the article she released, things she wasn't supposed to say, and she was eavesdropping. She looked into things like going to back into like way in high school. None of it was ever true. Like, so she brought receipts. She came out with it. Eventually, obviously, Alia is being interviewed now because now people want this blew up. People want the story now from Alia, and she does give her side of the story of why Terror sounded so believable, and like to all their friends too about Lila being the way that she was, because it was no secret that Marinette had a crush on Adrien, and no matter what, Lila just always seemed to turn everything in her favor, so they just kind of made Marinette look like she was lying. And that's when they decided to bring out another guest, like on the screen. They're not really there with them. And surprise who it is. It's Adrien and Marinette. So they're there with the interview. So they do end up asking some questions all their time with it. And this is like one of my favorite parts, along with like the whole love thing with like them getting used to him being a dad and everything. But it is just Marinette kind of going over it and how she did have a crush, and both of them are like so over it too when it gets brought up over and over again. They're like, oh, but like it was like no secret, like is that why? It's like, ugh, because they see each other's siblings now. They do not care. Like at some point they just stop. Like she just stops liking him, and it's just like things happen, right? But with more and more her friends turning against her because of something Liza said, and then not really asking her, and just things piling up, she decided to throw herself into her work and her designs. And so and then got the hell out of there, basically. So like next year she didn't even go there. Like she got out of there, right? And the only person she really had left there was like Adrien. Adrien knew she was a liar. He modeled with her. And to Adrien, asking him, to him, his thoughts on Lila was like, she's nothing but a fangirl who got to play dress up. Because she was super weird. It's like how he was dating Kagami at the time, and then she weirdly got mad at him, telling him like he was leading her on. It's like, what are we talking about? It's like, but what Lila would do is like she would take pictures from their photo shoots and then plaster it like as if they were dating. And it's like, so he's like, he found it really disturbing and weird. And they do ask like, oh, is that why you broke up? And Kagami, he's like, no, just for different reasons. But it is like to see Alia finally saying like to Adrien and Marinette, they've been enough. Like especially Adrien, because she's like, did Adrien ever tell him? And she's thinking maybe Adrien did try and tell her that like Lila was lying, but she just kind of brushed it off like she did with Marinette. And so to like finally hear them say it out loud of like, she's been a pain in her ass this entire time. And Adrien like finally saying, he's like, oh yeah, I have no problem. Like if she like insists on trying to like pursue and go after him, just like I have no problem pressing charges. Like this is, cause he's like, again, like Tim, she's nothing but a fangirl who got to play dress up. After that interview, everything quickly crumbles for Lila. Cause again, she's working as a waitress. And before, she would definitely get tipped heavily because like, oh, she's very sweet, or like, oh, she's that Agreste model. And now she gets tipped on. They don't even want to like look, and then like because of her behavior, they don't even want to tip her because of her behavior, right? Because it was revealed that she's actually like a very terrible person. Actually, she's also kind of a weird, very strange stalker in a way. Like I don't know, stalker is the right word. I don't know, but like fangirl. They like this is just this weird behavior. So clearly, kind of crumbled for there, and her workplace became hell, right? It even spread to her mom where they were calling her. It's like, isn't this your daughter? Like, what was she doing in school and all this was going on? It's like, what, you didn't know anything that your daughter's doing in this? So her mom kind of yelled at her too, because it's like, but like, by the end of all of this, it really was put in perspective. Like, literally, Adrien really said he does not like you at all. Hell, if you even keep continuing, he has no problems pressing charges, getting a restraining order. Like, he does not like you. He wants no part of you. And so this is where she starts to kind of start over. I feel like it's kind of open-ended because it doesn't know. Like, what she does is she, scrapes up some money, last bit she has, and cancels all the plans, obviously, to go to, like, Gotham. It has a one-way ticket to Italy, right? She's moving there. She has roommates, so there's no privacy, but it's fine. And she dyes her hair, cuts it. She's like, this will be fine. Like, no, start over, no, recognize you. And I feel like it's kind of open-ended because I feel like it's, because like her thought process, it's like, she was even reflecting on everyone kind of whispering behind her back. It's like, oh, this must have been how Marinette felt. So like, I feel like this is her kind of learning, yeah, you probably shouldn't do that, but I don't know. I feel like it could be like kind of open-ended though. Like she doesn't learn. She's just kind of starting over to do whatever. But that's where Lila's story ends. And then we flash forward a year from now from this whole interview thing. And Marinette has now finally like read the actual article that Ali released because she was staying away from it, right? And she's kind of breaking down to because she feels like it's her fault. Like it's her fault, right? Because she knows Alia really wanted to be a journalist. Now it's kind of in the gutter because of her, reputation. So she's now going to school for culinary and everything. But she feels like if she tried hard enough, like, she only did this or that, how she knew Jagged's on she was 13. So if she called her up, if she called him up, maybe he could have helped. Like, like a bunch of what if scenarios. But it's like, it wouldn't, have, it is what it is. Like, what it happened, whatever, right? And this is where we get everyone else's, like, how they found out, right? Like, Alex, she found out because Lila claimed an injury that Alex had before, right? And she was on, like, 3 different medications. She had a cast, and she could barely walk. Meanwhile, Lila was, like, limping around. It's like, that doesn't even make any sense. What are we talking about, right? It's like, you are, Kitty's section found out because, they were discussing it, and Luca was like, no, like unless you find proof for me that Lila's like telling the truth and that Marinette is a liar, it's like, but I'm not going to the concert because they had to concert play. It's like, but I'm not going to play with you. So they start researching. Juko started looking at, trying to find old modeling pictures of Lila because she said she modeled for her, she could help her. Rose contacted Prince Ali, and Ivan looked up Jagged Stone, and obviously what they found was nothing. Ali didn't know her. Jack and Stone did plenty of charities. He wasn't allergic to cats, but he never owned one. He had a dog, but like that was it. And Lila literally never modeled before, except with Gabriel in this first season of this had no intention of helping her. It's like, no. And let's be real, if she did, she wouldn't. But, and it was sad, but by that point, Marinette had already, again, threw herself into designs and moved away and pursued other things, like away from them and the situation as a whole. So, too late to really kind of like, apologize to Marinette, like in person type of thing. So, but like, this is where you find out the very sweet. Like, I like with Sabrina, like, she went to psychology and found out, like, this is really, it's set in how toxic both Chloe and Lila was. And Chloe just never cared to begin with. I mean, but like, that's how it was. And so she did reach out to Marinette later, but like, not like, this is like before the article, but she reached out and it was like to apologize, but like, that's it. She never like went further at all. Then we have like the little bonus scene where Marinette and Damien's kid try to convince them like to have like another, like we want a little sibling because like they had fun with Emma and they're like we want a sibling of our own, and it's like, oh, okay. And so like flash forward a bit, they do end up having a kid, not a daughter this time, but a son. So they did end up getting their wish. And that's all I have for you today. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, bye.